Welcome to Show-Off Showdown! In this series, the fighters are called Show-Offs, and this is the series for the Show-Off Showdown! Now let's meet the Show-Offs for tonight's Showdown, shall we? Tonight, we have an epic battle of the brains. That's right, Tails versus Donatello! Which of these two Show-Offs has the brains and brawn to match the others? Well, let's find out, shall we? By the way, the version of Donatello we're using for this battle is the 2003 Donatello. I put links in the analysis in the description below. Now without further ado, it's time for the Show-Off 2 Showdown!
Round 1, fight!
Fight!
Slipping down your spine.
Looks like Tails really beat the shell out of him.
Anyway, let's discuss how and why Tails wins this showdown. Now, this was actually a very close matchup, believe it or not. Now, for starters, if there is one thing that these two are known for, it's their brains. Now, one of the biggest questions of this debate would be, who has the bigger brains of the two? Well, let's find out, shall we? Now, it has been said that Tails has an IQ of 300, and I'm sure we all know how smart that is. Now, most of you are probably thinking that Tails is the smarter one here. However, I beg to differ. Believe it or not, Donatello was said to have an IQ of about 637, which is literally more than twice as high as Tails. I know, even I was surprised when I first found that out. Now, the fact that Donnie's IQ is literally twice as high as Tails might give him quite an advantage. However, despite his seemingly superior intelligence, Donnie can still mess up on the battlefield and not completely think things through. This only happens on rare occasions, but it has happened before. Not only that, but as you would have guessed, Donnie is more used to fighting alongside his brothers than on his own. While on the other hand, while Tails usually fights by Sonic's side most of the time, Tails is actually a lot more capable of fighting on his own than Donatello is. In fact, Tails has actually accomplished quite a few things on his own before he even met Sonic. No joke. Now, Tails' IQ may be lower than Donnie's, but Tails is still a tactical genius just like Donnie, and he still has plenty of tricks up his sleeve, which leads me to fighting skill. Now, both Tails and Donatello usually like to fight by using their brains, more specifically through things such as strategy, battle tactics, outwitting, or outsmarting their enemies in mid-combat, and more. However, these two are still perfectly capable and willing to fight in close combat. Now, while it is true that Donnie is much more skilled in martial arts and hand-to-hand combat than Tails is still perfectly capable of fighting in close combat, usually with his twin tails, which are surprisingly stronger and more flexible than his own limbs. While Donnie has quite a wide variety of ninja moves and techniques, Tails too has quite a few different fighting moves of his own. Moves such as the tail swipe, which is perfect for melee attacks, and it comes in quite a few variations, including one that resembles a tornado. Anyway, the homing attack is perfect for aerial attacks and downward strikes from above. And of course, the rather iconic and well-known spin dash is perfect for charge attacks, rebounds, and more. Believe it or not, Tails was actually the one who invented the spin dash, not Sonic.
Everything I know is a lie!
I know, I was surprised when I first found that out as well. Anyway, while Tails may not be a martial arts master like Donatello, Tails is still perfectly capable of holding his own against Donnie in close combat. Now, Tails and Donatello have both faced their fair share of tough opponents in the past. They have both faced very similar enemies, such as robots for example, and they can definitely keep up with their own teammates, including the ones who are stronger than they are. Not only that, but Donatello is actually on par with the Shredder and can hold his own against the Shredder in close combat. Now that's pretty intense. However, Tails on many occasions has been able to hold his own against the likes of Knuckles, Shadow, Megasonic, and the notorious Dr. Eggman, and even defeat them in battle. So as you can tell, Tails and Donatello both have their fair share of great impressive feats, which you can look more into while reading the analysis I put in the description below. Now, some people might be thinking that Tails can fly and Donatello can't. Well, actually, Donatello has a jetpack, so he's perfectly capable of fighting in midair just like Tails. Also, some people may or may not be thinking that Tails might be at a slight disadvantage because Donatello is armed with a weapon and Tails isn't. Well, that's not entirely true. Now, Donnie's bow staff will most likely give him greater reach. However, Tails also has his fair share of weapons at his disposal, including a hammer, which could be able to match Donnie's bow staff, his energy ball, which gives Tails the advantage in ranged projectile attacks, and his magic hook or magic hand, which is basically a boxing glove on a string that can be used in many offensive ways, such as punching straight forward, swinging around, and even emerging from underground. Now, speaking of weapons, being certified geniuses and inventors, Tails and Donatello have both invented their own highly advanced technology, and they both have a lot of gadgets, weapons, and advanced machinery within their arsenal. In fact, all the different technology they both have could most likely cancel each other out in many different ways. Now, I can't easily explain everything they have in their arsenal and how they could cancel each other out. So if you want more information on the technology they have, then you can read about it in the analysis I mentioned earlier. Alright, now that we covered their intellect, skills, feats, weapons, and technology-filled arsenal, let's discuss some of their more physical properties, shall we? Let's start off with speed. Now clearly, Tails and Donatello both have their impressive feats of speed and agility. Now at first glance, you might be thinking that Tails is faster. Well, let's see if that's true or not. Tails' average running speed is about 100 miles per hour, kinda like his name, miles per hour. Anyway, Tails has also been able to keep up with Sonic's average speed of about 765 miles per hour, which is roughly about the speed of sound. Although he has admitted that Sonic is faster, but we could still scale Tails' running speed to be at about 765 miles per hour at maximum. However, on the other hand, Donatello is fast enough to outrun an explosion. Now that may not seem very impressive at first, but when you actually look very close into detail on it, it's actually a lot more impressive than you think. In fact, let's look into it right now, shall we? A C4 explosion, for example, is virtually instant. Gases are released from the explosive at the super speedy rate of 26,400 feet per second, or 8,050 meters per second, pummeling everything in its immediate wake. Now, how fast does this make Donatello, you ask? Well, in order for Donatello to outrun an explosion that fast, he would need to be moving at the speed of, at the very least, 17,727.273 miles per hour. Now, that's pretty darn fast. Now, let's compare the speeds, shall we? Whoa, I definitely was not expecting that. Clearly, for a turtle, Donatello is pretty darn fast. Although now that I think about it, this is actually just travel speed, which is not nearly as important as combat speed. Now, according to the Speed Feast, Tails and Donatello are both fast enough to dodge lasers. It has been estimated that a laser could travel at about 186,000 miles per second. So I think it's safe to say Tails and Donnie are pretty much equal when it comes to reaction time and combat speed. Okay, moving on. Now, we've already discussed brain, so now let's discuss brawn. Now, as you can tell, Tails and Donnie both have very similar and impressive feats of physical strength. However, after comparing these feats, I think it's safe to say that Tails is physically stronger since he can smash and rip right through strong metals, like solid steel and titanium, with less effort than Donatello can. Plus, Tails can also lift and drag 10 tons and can kick someone so hard that they get sent flying at the speed of lightning during his thunder boost. So while Tails and Donnie are both very strong and surprisingly athletic, I think it's safe to say that Tails has the superior brawn. Now, for the last physical category, let's talk about durability, shall we? Now, just like their strength, Tails and Donnie both have very similar and impressive feats of durability and stamina. Now, as you can tell, Donnie has an incredibly tough shell, and he can tank a grenade-like explosion going off at his feet, where there's no shell, and be up and running within seconds. However, on the other hand, Tails is so durable, he survived getting caught in a tornado, got shot out of a cannon with enough force to completely destroy a building upon impact, survived a plane crash, and a fall from space. So I think it's safe to say that despite Donnie's tough shell, Tails is definitely more durable than Donatello. Okay, I think I covered all of their physical properties and comparisons. So overall, in a one-on-one base form battle between Tails versus Donatello, it is a very close matchup. However, Tails has both the brains and the brawn to match Donatello's, and in the end, Tails came out on top. Now, on another note, what if, theoretically or hypothetically, in a battle between Tails and Donatello with prep time, where Tails has the Chaos Emeralds and Donatello has the Amulet of the Acolytes, I hope I didn't mispronounce that, who would win between Tails and Donatello in their strongest forms, aka Super Tails versus Mystic Donatello? Well, let's find out, shall we? Let's see how these two powerful forms compare. So as you can tell, Tails and Donatello both gain a massive boost to the strength, speed, durability, and overall physicality in these forms. Super Tails is able to harm enemies just by flying into them, has these things called super flickers which surround him and damage nearby enemies, and he is virtually invincible. However, it only lasts for about a minute, but he can maintain his super form for over a week if he collects enough rings. Meanwhile, Mystic Donatello gains mystic powers, including the ability to create barriers to deflect powerful blasts of energy and magic, telepathic powers, and telekinesis, which is nowhere near as powerful as, say, Mewtwo's, but still effective. And Mystic Donatello is even powerful enough to kill spirits and demons. However, unlike Super Tails, Mystic Donatello is not invincible, and he can revert back to normal if hit hard enough. And I think it's safe to say Super Tails has what it takes to get the job done. Besides, since Super Tails is virtually invincible, I think it's safe to say that not even Donatello's mystic weapon that was forged from the fangs of dragons can damage Super Tails. However, believe it or not, Donatello's mystic form is actually not his strongest form. His most powerful form is actually his mystic dragon form. Now let's see how that compares to Super Tails. So Donatello's dragon form has retractable wings, breathes spiritual fire that can burn demons, and is powerful enough to destroy buildings and possibly cities. However, still probably not enough to take down Super Tails. One of the only things that is known to have harmed Super Tails are beings like Solaris, who is basically a super dimensional monstrosity, and Donnie's dragon form is nowhere near that level of power. Besides, Tails has survived building-busting attacks in just his base form. What does that tell you? Anyway, just like Super Tails, Donnie's dragon form can only last for a very short amount of time, roughly about a few minutes. If Donatello overexerts himself or stays in his dragon form for too long, his amulet will shatter and leave him unable to transform or use any more of his mystic powers. Besides, like I said before, Tails can maintain his super form for over a week if he collects enough rings. And like I said before, Tails and Donatello would need prep time in order to bring the Chaos Emeralds and the amulet into battle and use these powerful forms. If you ask me, I think Tails would have plenty of time to collect as many rings as he needs during that said prep time before the fight starts. So I think it's safe to say that Super Tails would be able to outlast and outpace Donnie's dragon form just like that. Okay, I think I've said enough for this battle. So in the end, Donatello got outfoxed. The winner of this battle is Tails. By the way, I want to give a special thanks to the creator of the first half of this battle, Vianco. So go check out his channel and subscribe. Also, I'm still in the process of making TMNT vs Ruby, but for now, I'm going to show you a sneak peek or a short scene of the fight. Enjoy! Okay, I think you've seen enough for now. It's a work in progress, and you'll see much more once the whole battle is finished. So stay tuned.
Got any ideas for Show-Off Showdown? Then let me know in the comments below, and hopefully, I just might do them. Now stay tuned for the next episode of Show-Off Showdown!